Hello, welcome. Welcome to my very first video. Today is May 1st, 2023, and it's a great day to start this project. It's a beautiful spring day outside. Everything is blooming, everything is green. It's a time for new. Yes, and this is very new to me. And I'm very excited to speak to you for the very first time. And actually the very first thing I would like to talk about is, and this might sound a little bit paradoxical now, the impossibility to talk about that what I want to talk about, that what really matters in life, this path to happiness, this path into heaven, or let's say it in a better way, the path back to heaven. And it is so difficult or actually impossible to talk about simply because the words I'm using mean something to me, but they mean something completely different to you. For instance, I could say, happiness is inside. And you will say, yes, great, this is correct. I know this, thank you. Goodbye. Because for you, inside means something specific. But for me, this word points to something totally different. And happiness means something to you. But when I use the word happiness, I mean something completely different. I'm not talking about your happiness. So, how to talk about this? I can try in any way, but I cannot influence the way you will understand my words. And this is the trouble with every conversation, not just with these videos here. Jesus had the same problem, of course. He talked to his disciples about the kingdom of God, about the kingdom of heaven. And his disciples were simple people, carpenters, fishermen, farmers. And they heard what Jesus said, and for them it was totally clear what he meant. For them, the kingdom of heaven was a country, a land, with stuff in it, with people, with a table and some benches, and that's where they will sit and have a good time together. They could only understand the words of Jesus in their own world of experience. They could only relate to it in the context of those things they already knew. And of course, Jesus was talking about something completely, entirely different. He was talking about something which had nothing to do with anything his disciples ever experienced. And that's why there was no way he could talk about it to them. So that's the trouble, that's the problem. So how to do this? I wanna tell you about how I how I met my spiritual master, Soham, who back then was called Samapan. This is now 23 years ago. That's a good example for what I was just talking about. Back then, at that time, it wasn't that I was looking for a master. I was a totally normal person, just like today, unspiritual, just a normal guy living a normal life. And just a few years before, about 7 years before, that was in 1993, that's when I, for the very first time in my life, asked myself, am I happy? And with this question came the question, well, what is it? What does it mean to me being happy? Am I happy? And how can I be happy? How can I make this happen? And I had no clue, of course. But I wasn't spiritual. I wasn't particularly Christian. I was just a simple guy. I was looking for happiness in relationship, just like other people look for it in the job, in success, in money, in security, whatever. And that I met this spiritual master, who was called Samapan at that time, was a pure coincidence. I wasn't looking for a master. I wasn't looking for anything spiritual. I had read some books, some very nice books, which helped me to learn about myself. But it wasn't that I was on a spiritual path or anything like this. And I was living outside of Germany at that time, and I came back to Germany, and I had read a book from a lady who was sharing in her book about her spiritual path. And in that book, she also mentioned this man, this spiritual master, Samapan. And when I was back in Germany, this was in Munich, in the year 2000, I, by accident, came to know that this man was in Munich at that time giving satsang. And since I had read about this man before, and since I knew his name because of this, I thought, okay, I will go there. I had no idea what satsang is. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't even know why I'm doing this. It just felt like a good idea. I was in town, he was in town, and I thought, well, let's check this out. But it wasn't that I was looking for something. It wasn't like I thought, oh, he will tell me how it works, or he will give me happiness. No, I just stumbled in there, and I was just sitting there and didn't even know why I was there. And I tell you this to relate to you that I was just as normal as you are. I wasn't particularly holy or special or particularly intensely on a search or anything like this. Quite the contrary. So I was sitting in this room where satsang was supposed to happen. The room was full of people, a small room. Most people were sitting on the floor, and me as well. And then after a while, this man, Samapan, entered the room and walked across the room and sat down on his chair. And he started talking. And people were coming up front to him, sitting next to him, asking him questions. he answered. And they were talking about mundane things, about everyday life stuff, relationship problems, job problems, money worries, all this nonsense. Nothing holy, nothing spiritual. He wasn't talking about happiness at all. And yet, when I was sitting in this room and seeing this man for the very first time, I experienced something quite extraordinary. It was like suddenly I felt totally at ease. I had this feeling that everything is okay. Everything is fine. I was just happy. I didn't get the answer to where I find happiness. No, I was just happy. And in that moment, I decided this is where I want to stay. And I didn't mean by this staying in this room, of course. Or I didn't even mean staying with this master. No, I wanted this state, this experience, this knowing, everything is okay. And not knowing in the head, no, knowing by experience, by being it, yeah. And this experience had nothing to do with what Samapan had said. It had nothing to do with his words. It had nothing to do with the conversations happening that evening in that room. It had to do with this person. It had to do with what, it's like his inner world, his inner state, his experience of happiness, his ease, was just swapping over to me. Just like this, invisible, by itself. He didn't do it. And that's how it works. It can't be said, but it's like a transmission by experience. And of course, some kind of medium is needed for this. Samapan used to travel from town to town, giving satsang 1 week in one city, 1 week in another city. So he traveled around year by year, and I joined him. And from that day on, I was part of his crew. I was helping with all kinds of things for over 20 years up to now. And just by being with him, not necessarily physically all the time, but by being his disciple, his student, this, what he has inside, got implanted in me over time, slowly. He didn't do it, I didn't do it. Yeah. And that's how it can happen. And some medium is needed for this. That's why he was traveling around and visiting the towns of the people, so they could experience him from time to time, again and again. And the people came and experienced him once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. Or maybe they read his book or listened to his online satsang. And just by connecting with this person, with this man, again and again, that what cannot be said is being transmitted. And slowly, the inner world of those people and the inner world of me is changing. And that's what I'm doing here. That's why I begin to make videos, and that's why I want to do a lot of videos. And I will probably talk about all kinds of nonsense, And maybe sometimes even about interesting things. But it's like just giving the opportunity to connect and to taste something. Yeah. Yeah, so I was with him for 20 years as his helper and as his disciple, and I'm still both of this. And over the years, it just slowly, without me even knowing, it's not that it's one morning I woke up and it's like, wow, I'm happy. No, it was not like this, and I don't think it is like this for anybody. It happened gradually, slowly, slowly, slowly. And now I'm just happy. I'm at ease, and I don't even know how this is possible. Yeah, and I want to share about this. I want to talk about this over and over again in many different ways, in many different angles, because it can't be said directly, but it can be said in so many different ways. And don't listen to the words, because the words never say the truth, and the words are always bound to be misunderstood. Always. It's impossible to not misunderstand. One guru said, Swamiji, he said, the guru speaks on one level, there, way up there, and the disciple listens on another level, down here. And these two things don't meet. And the guru has no way to make the disciple understand, because the disciple just doesn't listen on the same level where the guru is speaking. But it doesn't matter. That's the beautiful thing. It doesn't happen through the words. So don't listen to the words. Just feel how it feels to you. Feel what you experience. Yeah. That's the only important thing. I want to talk about something else. Many people think the path to happiness has to do with enlightenment. And there will be a point in your life where it makes boom, and you're enlightened, and everything is different. You are different and happy, and everything's okay. Now, I know that there are people who have had experiences like this, and they make great books and great stories, and that's what people hear, and they say, oh, I want this I want too. And then they're waiting for it. And of course it doesn't happen in their life. And they think, okay, I have no chance. What can I do? Yeah. It's stupid in two ways. First of all, they're waiting for something which will not happen, and then they will think, without this, they cannot be happy. In my life, it was different. In my life, it didn't happen like this. And I think in most people's lives, it doesn't happen like this. Life evolves gradually. It's like like children grow slowly. It's like becoming an adult. It's not like you are 15 years old and you go to sleep and then you wake up the next morning and you are an adult. It doesn't work like this. No, you grow day by day by the experiences you make. And by that you change and you grow and you develop and you don't know anything about this. And it's the same thing with this spiritual development. It's the same thing with this discovering happiness. It's a slow, natural, gradual process. It has nothing to do with enlightenment. And that's not needed. Yes, there will be moments where you notice, I really, you remember one moment where you worried so much in the past and you were so full of anxiety and then you notice, where did this go? But you see, you don't even know when it disappeared because it was such a gradual, just a slow process. And yes, there are moments in life where you have really strong experiences, where you think, wow, this I've never experienced before. There are experiences like this for some people. But it's not those experiences which change us. It's more like the experiences are the byproduct of the slow development which happens day by day by day, unnoticed by us. I have this image of a mountain hike. You hike up a mountain. It's a long, long path, many, many, many hours. And you hike up that path, and at some point on the path, the path goes around a corner, and because it goes around the corner, you suddenly are able to see the sun and a beautiful valley. And you come around this corner and you see the sun and you think, wow, what a great view. It's such a beautiful experience. But it has nothing to do, it just means you reached a certain height, you came around a certain corner, and that's why you can suddenly see the sun. It's not like that seeing the sun brought you there or does something. Yeah, it's a byproduct of being on that path continuously. And after that, the path goes on many, many, many hours. And for me, this is what enlightenment is. It is, for some people, an experience which is a product of this development, what that person has had continuously over a long time, completely unnoticed by that person. But that experience, that feels good, and you think, oh wow, this is it. I'm so smart. Of course, later you find out that you didn't get any smarter. But anyway, the development goes on just as unnoticed as before. So don't worry about this at all. You don't need to wait for enlightenment. You don't need experiences like this. When they happen, great, but don't take them seriously. Don't just forget them again. I never had a very strong enlightenment experience. I once, I think one year before I came to Soham, who was called Samapan back then, I think 1 year before I came to him, I had a lovely experience. And only like 10 or 15 years later, I realized what I actually experienced back then. That I really experienced that I am completely disconnected and that I have nothing to do with this body and with this world. But I couldn't understand it at that time. But it was an unforgettable experience. I still remember it as if it had happened yesterday. But I didn't take it serious, and I didn't think it means something. And I'm glad about this. Yeah. So the real learning and the real discovery happens by being in the proximity of somebody who already is a couple of steps ahead of us. That's why we go into school, because there's a teacher who's ahead of us. And in many of my videos, probably in almost all of them, I will talk about the two people who are ahead of me and where I get all my blessings from. This is Soham, whom I'm with since 23 years, and this is Swamiji, Shivkrupanand Swami, my Indian guru, who came into my life about 6 years ago. And I will mention them again and again. And if you resonate with these giants, go directly to them. You don't need to listen to me. I'm a disciple. I'm a student like you. I'm a learner like you. Just the important thing is that what you feel inside, let yourself be guided by that. So if you feel like going there, go there. You really don't need me. But in the 20 years, for 20 years I was traveling with Soham all around the country, all around Switzerland and Austria and Germany. And I've met so many people. I was observing so many people who were really in search. They were genuinely in search for happiness. And yet, they just couldn't open up to a spiritual master. Although Sohamji is also totally normal, such a normal guy. But just because of his role as a spiritual master, it was impossible for most people to open up to this, to be a disciple, to say, yes, I know nothing, you know, that they were not able to do this. And the same is with the Indian guru Swamiji, who is a giant, he's like a Jesus alive. If you feel this too, go there. But most people I see, they cannot imagine. They cannot imagine this. And for those of you, I make these videos because I'm one of you. I have a normal life. I'm working. I have a family. I eat and shit and sleep just like you. There's nothing special about me. Nothing. And that's why I say, if I can be happy, if I can find heaven, you can too. So my hope is that if you can't listen to a Jesus who is alive today, like Swamiji, if you can't listen to a spiritual master like Sohamji, maybe you can listen to an ordinary idiot like me. And I will talk about all kinds of things. And maybe there are some things which are interesting for you. And then if you want and feel like listening, then I'm totally happy. And I cannot give you anything. I can just share about how it is for me. I can share about what I experienced and what I learned. And just by you listening to this, something will arrive with you, maybe. But I can do it, I just can't do anything. I just can share, and I can just have fun doing these videos. There's nothing I want to do more than this. And the rest happens by itself. Yeah. But I am interested in I'm interested in hearing from you. What I'm curious about is what's the important thing for you in your life right now? What is it what you think is most important in your life? What is it what's your challenge right now? The thing why you think you are not happy, the thing why you think you are not in heaven, or you cannot be there, or you will never be there. What is it? What's your roadblock? Yeah, what's your challenge? What's your obstacle? I'm curious. Although I'm really ordinary, somehow I don't have these things anymore in my life. And so I don't know what's bothering you. And I'm curious. I will speak about how to become happy in every video from now on. But I still want to know from you. So if you feel like writing to me, please do it. On my website you will find the information about how you can do this. And I would be very happy to hear from you. So this is enough for today, I guess. And I'm sorry that I guess I speak very slow. You need to know that I don't have a script. I don't have a plan what I'm talking about. I don't even know what I will talk about when I start the video. Yeah, I knew when I started I want to talk about that it's impossible to say it. But that's about it. I didn't know anything else. And then it happens by itself, step by step. And that's why, and this is my first video, my very first video. So I don't have a lot of practice with this. So that's why I'm a little slow. It doesn't mean that I'm holy. It doesn't mean that I'm wise. And, people think all kinds of funny things. It just means that I have no clue what I'm talking about. I let it come through by itself, and I sometimes have to wait because I'm very inexperienced with this kind of things. Yeah. I'm happy that you're here, and I'm happy that you made it up to this point in this video. And if you come back and listen to some of my videos, maybe some of them will interest you, then I'm delighted. Thank you for being here.